Hey, I'm Gary from Hoops and Cards, and you're listening to the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Content Network. Be sure to subscribe to all of our podcasts, including Sports Card Strategy, Football Card Quest, and my show, Hoops and Cards. We're helping you make money to fund your PC and enjoy the hobby, because there is no off-season.
What's going on, everybody? Paul Hickey here with NoOffSeason.com. You are consuming the Sports Card Strategy Show, brought to you by Graybo's Sports Cards. Graybo's Sports Cards is a local hobby shop owned by Gray Barnett, Ryan Fitz, and Duke Denny One-Time Dodson, and is located in the Arts District in Richmond, Virginia. Graybo's sports the best selection of raw and graded singles in the Mid-Atlantic and a wide variety of wax. Graybo's breaks on Whatnot and or Drip 5 nights a week. Listeners of Sports Card Strategy can receive a 10% discount from Graybo's on Drip, Whatnot, or their website at graybos.co by entering the code STRATEGY2023. You can follow all of Graybo's news and updates on Instagram at Graybos_cards. Don't forget to go premium at nooffseason.com. Get your free 30-day trial today to help you build your sports card investment portfolio. We have just launched Sports Card School at nooffseason.com. Check it out at sportscardschool.com. All of the data we use on the Sports Card Strategy Show is from Market Movers. Get a free 14-day trial followed by 20% off for life by using the promo code NOOFFSEASON at marketmoversapp.com today. All right, you're about to enter a Wednesday deep dive with Kendall the Lefty McKee and Connor Barnett, head of content at nooffseason.com. Lefty and Connor, take it away.
It's a phenomenal intro. It really is.
Let's dive, baby. I love Barry Siff's comment right here. Let's dive into the Sports Card Strategy Show deep dive. Welcome, guys, to nooffseason.com. And Brian Steeler 714, you're completely correct. Connor, it's baseball card buying season. We're here, man. We're here.
I love it. I love it. We got a bunch of good stuff for you guys today. So my name's Connor. I'm head of content No Off Season. Obviously, you guys know Kendall the Lefty McKee. We got a lot of good stuff planned for today. Per usual, we're going to start with a little bit of portfolio building. We've been doing a lot of talk lately about categorization and our categories for defining cards and players between our flyers, heroes, and goats. And Janelle Shue recently in an Overflow show was asking about can flyers be risky? Can flyers be not risky or be less risky? Can goats be more risky? And how do we differentiate those? So something that I want to lead the audience with today and that I think you guys should have on your mind is how can we find less risky flyers and how do we stay away from the risky goats? So like, even if your portfolio is allocated of a certain percentage of flyers, like for Lefty right now, in the last couple of weeks, he's kind of talked about how he's trying to move out of flyers, but right now he has a little bit higher of a concentration of flyers than he'd like. But if you are going to have those flyers in your portfolio, what can you do to mitigate risk from them? And how do you find the ones that are less risky? And for the goats, how do you find as much stability as possible? Lefty, any thoughts there in terms of trying to mitigate risk for those flyers and keep the risk away for the goats?
Yeah, I think of this, what the three of us are, and now the four of us with Connor added into here, do when we look at flyers is we take some of our objectives that we know are a good positive win, like if they're on a good team, if they have good makeup, if they have good, for me, it's all about exit velocity and things like WRC plus, continued ball improvement in AA, so there are some things that even though somebody would be relegated to the flyer section, I believe that there is less risk involved with some of those than there is in goats. So I love that Janelle Shue brought forward that discussion because and I'll just I'll just talk about one of my takes from earlier this week. I talked about Candace Parker being in the GOAT section. And then when I started evaluating the play a lot more, looking at the card count, looking at the pop count, looking at the amount traded and all that kind of stuff, she is a risky GOAT. And there's a lot there's a lot safer GOATs out there. For instance, I'm going to talk about Messi today, and I believe he is a much safer GOAT, not because Candace Parker doesn't deserve investments, but he has way more cards. There's way more proven sale markers. There's way more the sale count is really important. I think when you're looking at the amount of cards on eBay and the people search engineing Messi, like how many people are typing into eBay, Messi or Messi cards, this is a good amount of people. So I think when we look at the risky GOATs, I think there are people out there that are risky right now. I think Tom Brady right now is a risky GOAT, because I think the projectable markers for his cards to go up are fewer than his markers to go down. So I do think that right now I feel more confident in the Flyers as the market is building back up into a December buying window where Flyers are actually what we're going to be buying most of. Flyers and Heroes in this next couple of months are where we're going to invest our money. And so I like to move into the GOATs into spring, summertime after you've taken some profits from some of your Flyer plays. So yes, Connor, all, yes, Flyers can be more stable and GOATs can be risky.
Yeah, good stuff there, Lefty. I think there were actually a lot of good takeaways in Lefty's response there. One of them being looking at advanced stats. Research it will be your best friend, I think, when you're trying to mitigate risk in Flyers, GOATs, and Heroes, right? So Lefty likes using advanced hitting stats to look at baseball prospects. I use advanced stats all the time when I'm doing sports betting. The more knowledgeable you are, not only do you feel more comfortable making the play, but they are advanced metrics for a reason. So I think that the more research you can do, not only does it ease your mind, but it does put you in a better position to expose yourself to less risk there. Yeah. Before we get into my pitches for some portfolio building between Flyers, Heroes, and GOATs, let's do a little bit of live chat love this morning. We got Brian Steeler 714. Good morning, Brian. We got Janelle Shue, Evan Bell in the house. We got Barry Siff. Let's dive. Yes, sir. We got Sean. Good morning, Sean. And we got Ozzy Alvarez. Good morning, Ozzy. Happy to have all of you guys in here this morning. Lefty, let's look at what I got for you.
I'm ready here. Let's get it.
So per usual, I went basketball heavy, just because this year I've had so much fun with the beginning of basketball season. Yeah. With now I'm more exposed to the card world. I'm playing fantasy basketball again this year. Just so much good stuff going on in basketball. So curious to see what you think from my picks here. But let's start off with our Flyer category. Going Michael Porter Jr., 2018 Prism Silver PSA 10, wing player for the Nuggets. This card's down 43% over the last 90 days, and it's easily accessible. Got a pop count of 2184. Michael Porter Jr. got off to a very slow start in his career with the Nuggets. He had that injury, and then it seemed like they just didn't want to play him, which for me always raises concern of, do the vets hate him? Does he not know how to play basketball, even though the talent's there? But in the last couple of years, he's looked really solid to me. I think the Nuggets are in my opinion, a clear top 3 or 4 contender. They won last year. I don't see a problem with them.
4?
Top 4 for anyone that wants to debate. I think they're top 2 between them and Milwaukee.
I would put
as of right now.
2.
Yeah, I agree too. But you got to give a little lenience to the audience just in case.
Got to hedge
as of right now. That's right. MPJ is second on the Nuggets in points per game. He's averaging 16.4 a game. He's also adding 8 rebounds a game. This 2018 Prism Silver is near a 365-day low. It's got upside easily of between 80 and $120. It kind of sat in this window all the way from February of this year to early June. Last sale was just $46. We're talking about a current second option with Jamal Murray's shaky injury history. We're talking about a second option on a contending team, a PSA 10 rookie card for only $46. and it's liquid. 14 trades the last 30 days. What are we thinking on this MPJ Prism Silver?
Well, let me start with the fact that there are two competing thoughts in our front office about basketball buying season right now. Paul would never touch this with a 90-foot pole because he's already sold basketball. And then we have Chad talking about how now is a good time for basketball buying season. I'm somewhere in the middle because I don't buy a ton of basketball cards. So it has to be a position that I really like. And let me put it to you this way, Connor. I really like where MPJ is at right now. You know, I might literally go buy one of these after the show. Here's why. Michael Porter Jr. is a top-tier talent. He was number 1 overall high school player, went to Washington, I believe, got injured, but was very highly recruited into the NBA as well. And then he comes into the NBA in a struggling Nuggets franchise where they didn't know that they had Nikola Jokic yet on their team. So then as the team begins to grow, he becomes less of a priority to need to dominate. So then they let him really heal up. They let him with his back issues. They let him have more surgeries. They let him have time to develop. And then I wasn't concerned with the lack of playtime. I think that was a safety call because they really wanted this guy to be the number 2, number 3 role player on a franchise team that was really going to go push for championships. We've seen how they've pushed for championships, and MPJ is a critical part of this team. And I love the stats. I love the pop count. I think it's a very safe pop count. I think this card has a lot of markers in the next 6 to 12 months. And then let me also point out this. This is the real life last week what happened. Nikola Jokic got ejected in the second quarter of their previous game. When he's out of the game, there was just nothing going on. And MPJ had to stand up and win this game. He ended up going, I think, 50% from 3 over the final 2 quarters with him out. And it looks like you're Googling here, so I think you're probably looking up stats, but MPJ won them this game. It was a tough, contested game, and he had to ball out, and he did. And so I think he is the kind of guy that Aaron Gordon pushed into that role last year in the playoffs, where Aaron Gordon was like, hey, when they were doubling Jokic and when Murray was struggling, Gordon was that third guy. I think it's MPJ's third team now. I think Aaron Gordon is happy to take a more back seat. Plus, I'd rather have MPJ shooting than I'd have Aaron Gordon. And I think all of that bubbles into a really good, timely investment, especially when this card is down 43% in the last 90 days. That's a good investment for this. Not only for the Nuggets are going to be a well documented and well mediaized team in the playoffs. I think MPJ's card prices are going to rise.
Bang. It's a great breakdown from Lefty McKee right there, guys. So we're 1 for 1. He likes the Michael Porter Jr. play. It just feels so free at $46. Especially, like I said, looking at that window from February to June, obviously that's a different point in the NBA hype cycle, but the fact that was just consistently selling between $80 and $120 for that extended period of time, I think we're on the same page. He's got a lot of upside. He's still very young. They're going to be looking to continue to up his workload and his usage rate the more he establishes himself as a scorer for that team. So
I really think that's a safe pop count too. Pop count 2,000, a little over 2,000. That means that there's going to be cards traded, so you're not going to have to look for you're not going to have to really jump for previous sales or any sort of comps or anything like that. You're not going to have to like work around something like that. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be like, yeah, this card continues to rise. Look at the data, and so it's going to be an easy sale.
Let's talk sell markers for MPJ. Do we think that this is something that you want to have listed going into just like a big playoff game before the game starts with an auction? Or are we looking for a kind of a most improved player of the year, something like that? What do you think with MPJ sell-wise?
I think the easiest one is just the media presence of how the Nuggets will be going forward into the playoffs. You'll see them pushing forward as contenders, as they're fighting to reclaim the back-to-back. I think this team will get a lot of hype and a lot of buzz, and that is a natural selling marker because they will be nationally televised a ton over the next, 6 months. I think the easy sell markers are a comeback player of the year. An easy sell marker could be squeaking into an all-star game. I mean, he's playing at an elite level. I think he's getting overshadowed right now, but if Murray drops any time and or if Jokic has like any sort of suspension type thing, I don't think that's going to happen, just to be clear. But if they do miss time, I think MPJ can take this team to some wins. He's not an MVP candidate. Let's not overhype this man. But I do think there are some in-season tournament stuff that is appealing as well. So I'm trying to look at the in-season tournament breakdown right now and the standings, and I would assume that the Nuggets are doing fine. Let me see. Yeah, they're in second in their in-season Group B, so they're probably going to make the round tournament, which if I am the Nuggets, I'm going to be relying more on my role players in the in-season tournament to win this thing than I am the MVP. I want to keep him safe, right? And so I think MPJ could have some run here. And so I think a good playoff game or a good playoff game in the in-season tournament might be a good marker for him. A comeback player of the year, that's probably 6 to 8 months away. And I think actually the marker before that would be his team pushing into the playoffs and hunting for that number 1 seed in the West.
Good stuff. Good stuff there. Let's move on to heroes. Let's see what we think about Ja Morant and his 2019 Prism Ruby Wave PSA 10. Obviously, Ja is suspended for the first, I believe it's 25 games of the season. So this card market's kind of in a funky spot right now. But this specific card's down 55% the last 30 days. It's got a pop count of 448. The last sale was $157. And this is important because if you look at this card at the same time last year, it was selling for above $400. We've seen what Ja Morant can do. The Grizzlies are in a bit of a slump without him. And I would imagine at this point he realizes he needs to get his stuff together and show some maturity. So off the court maturity, obviously, but if he continues to mature on the court as well, we've seen his athletic ability. We've seen how he can score. We've seen how he can get teammates involved. He's got that killer instinct. I just feel like this is a good mid-tier investment, and I don't think that I would necessarily throw it in the flyer range just because we already know what Ja can do, right? And it just comes down to him not being suspended. It's not an injury thing. It's just not being dumb.
Which we haven't seen Ja Morant come through with. We have not seen, hey, yeah, you have the ability to just not be dumb. Like, he has the ability to be very dumb. And so I'm going to throw up this card here on our, so for those of you that are watching live, I want to be able to have some of these cards for you to be able to look at. But this is the Ruby Wave that Connor's talking about, PSA 10. I mean, Ja Morant is a spectacle. When he's playing well, he is dominant. I mean, we've seen his card prices and card market go bananas before because of the kind of player that this guy is. First off, also, this is a PSA 10. This is pretty off center left to right. I just wanted to point out left to right. Look at the margin on this side. So that's a pretty unique PSA slab, first off. But for those of you that are not watching, we are looking at a PSA 10 Ja Morant Ruby Wave on eBay. That the winning bid was $156. That is down 55% over the last 30 days. That's good numbers. Connor, I just don't want to risk into Ja Morant right now, personally. So not that I think it's a bad investment, but I just don't believe that he's not going to come in and make more bonehead plays. Like, this guy came in year after year to dominate. There was a reason why he went to Murray State, and I think we've all seen that now. That's
a good point.
Him being Ja Morant did not allow him to go to a team like Alabama, where he could have fit in really nicely in that system in Alabama. He is literally a better version of all those Alabama guards, but he ended up at Murray State because he's a bonehead. I love Ja Morant. I actually have done part of my MBA at Murray State. I'm excited about him being a racer. But what I am saying is this guy just hasn't proven that he can forget all the other stuff in life and play basketball at an elite level. So the card might be at a good spot, but I have yet to – I don't believe in him right now.
Okay.
So
I like the unwillingness to expose yourself to risk there. I'm good with that. Up next, we got the GOAT. The GOAT category. I'm going with Luka Doncic. I got him as a GOAT. Well, I mean, if you break down his year-over-year stats, he's essentially a 30-point triple-double guy year after year, game after game. So I'm putting him in the GOAT category. You can debate me on that if you'd like. We're looking at his 2018 Optic-Holo and PSA 10. That's down 10% the last 30 days. So it's trading for just over $800 right now, which is pretty close to a 365-day low, which for me is something that I love seeing because it lets me know the risk that I'm exposing myself to is near the floor already, right? So it's going to be hard for a card that's near a 365-day low to plummet more, in my opinion. This is a card that traded consistently around $1,500 between late November of 2022 and early March of 2023. It's kind of got that sweet spot pop count of just over 300. Decently liquid, but not overly traded to where you got to worry about demand. I believe in Luka long term. I do. And I think that we're going to see him kind of break the hump within maybe this year or the next, where he really learns how to win in the NBA. And obviously his numbers are going to be ridiculous. He's going to give himself tons of sell markers between scoring title chases, MVP chases, deep playoff pushes. Kyrie seems to have settled in Dallas for some reason. It's the first place he's gone the last 5 years that he seems like he's not trying to make a fiasco about something. I mean, things feel kind of nice in Dallas right now. That's just my opinion. What are you thinking on Luka?
I'm thinking it's riskier than it looks, Connor. Let's put it this way, because there's external factors for Luka that I don't love, i.e., Irving. Like you just never know what's going to happen. But they have picked up good role players, and he is looking like he's ready to make his mark in Dallas. I've heard speculation about him not being long-term tied into the Dallas market and things like that. I'm not 100% sure where that's at, but I know that Luka is a spectacle and has had deep pocket investments previously, which I think helps in this scenario, because if his card is down, you have deep pocket investments wanting to get back into Luka. That's okay. But also there's a negative way of looking at that. If there's deep pockets that have been on Luka before and have lost money on Luka, they're not looking at Luka again being their investment. They feel burned by that. So this card being an $830 investment, I think is, this peaked way higher than 830. Trading consistently around like what you have here is 1.5K over the November to March cycle last year. And so I think that's a good level, especially because he will rise back up this Mavs team. So 811 now. If I just look at the stats, I say this is a good investment. But I look at the name on the card and I get a little weary because of all the losses that I have seen on Luka Doncic's cards over the past 2 to 3 years. So I am going to say I would sprinkle into this. I think it's a good investment, but it's a lot of money to potentially make, but you're potentially almost going to double it in the next, 6 months maybe. So
Proceed with caution.
Proceed with caution.
Cautiously.
Proceed with caution. If you're psyched about Luka, proceed. I'm not. I'm going to choose not to, but I could understand why people would.
Good stuff. Good stuff there. Let's transition right into what you do like to partake in. Let's go right into your path to profit and a play that you are currently working on to make some money.
Well, Connor, let me just also point out that you've brought up 3 great cards here, and I feel bad for disagreeing with 2 of them.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Because statistically and money-wise, and like if all emotion was aside, these would be 3 wins. But I can't believe in Ja Morant and Luka Doncic is like I have like a DNR/DNI. Do not invest in Luka Doncic, no matter how good he is. He's just not a player that I have chosen to risk into anymore. So,
I think real quick. I think that's something that's important too. Like, just because the numbers look opportunistic doesn't necessarily mean that it's a play for everybody for a couple of reasons. I actually put Ja Morant on there because I was curious to see if you were comfortable exposing yourself to the risks that is Ja Morant. So was completely comfortable with that being a no, even though it's an opportunistic time to invest in that card. And then for, like you're saying, for Luka, people, that's just going to happen, right? Like, people have invested in certain players and been burned by them. So it's going to be difficult. If you don't believe in the play that you're making, no matter how good the indicators look, it's going to be hard to invest your money there, especially for an $800 plus card like this. So no love lost there, Lefty. I'm all good with your responses.
Cool. Yeah, I think there, to finally wrap this up before we move into my path to profit section, there are so many players with sports cards, so many sports, so many players, so many avenues, so many cards that have good numbers. I am very careful about investing in the person behind the card. I think that that's something that I'm really growing in the last year, is not just blindly being like, smash that invest button, but what's the situation around this player? And Luka's a dog, and I think I could go back to Luka at some point, but Luka and Irving on the same team, whew, that scares me. So
I get it. I like it.
All right, path to profits.
Yeah, let's see. Where are you making money right now, Lefty? What is the move in the mind of Lefty McKee?
Yeah, so path to profit here, this section of our show, we talk about a play that I'm working on, and a play into the, like, just like little spiders going into the mind of where my head's going. So my head right now is going towards, okay, what athlete is a very safe investment that has a lot of projectable markers over the next 6 to 12 months? And immediately, it's not really even a hard answer to this. Like, I don't have to look very far. I'm talking about Lionel Messi. Like, the end of his career is coming up, that we all know that it's about to be the end. And when I look back at Tom Brady's end of his career, like the last couple of years of his career, people just wanted to invest in Brady because even in the card world, people wanted to think they were going to be savvy and having people invest in Brady at the end so that when he does retire or does win his last Super Bowl, they think that that's going to be a marker of selling. Well, I actually want to get in before that into the Messi game. And so with pop count, with projectable markers, with Argentina also playing in several tournaments over the next year, with how Apple, Adidas, and then MLS are going to parade Messi around next season. It'll be his first full season at Inter Miami. So let me just put this into perspective, Connor. They were terrible before Messi came in. They were the very last team in the MLS. They did not have a shot at even getting close to the playoffs. They bring in Messi, they win a trophy, they get second in the next competition, and he almost drives a 30-point improvement in the MLS standings. That's incredible. First off, that goes with it to get this team in the 9th spot of the MLS. And had he not had an hamstring injury, I think he would have done it. So this guy is coming into a league that's ready to parade him. And I think to start the season off, this team is also recruiting more incredible names. We've heard names like Rakitic potentially coming into this team. There's rumors of Suarez. I think Suarez actually has already agreed to terms. I think we have Modric being rumored into coming in. We have De Gea coming in to potentially be the goalie of this team. This team is going to have some old players that are still very, very good coming into this franchise. And I think Inter Miami it would be a shock for me if they do not take that number 1 seed from FC Cincinnati next year and just run the table. I think they do so well in the MLS. I think they do so well in the Liga MX tournament. I think they do so well in the Lamar Hunt Trophy that Messi is going to be all over. Now, that's the MLS bias that I have that people have dogged me about previously on this show. Let's look at his international team. Argentina coming off a World Cup. We have Argentina fighting for Copa America. We have them going into several different tournaments this year. We have the Argentina beat Brazil last night 1-0. And Messi was on the field. I think Messi is such an easy investment right now. That is and for the next 8 months, I think there are so many sell markers, especially when his card markets are down right now. We see some of his cards being down as much as 30% right now on marketmovers.com. And so that's something that I just can't avoid. And so the card that I'm looking into, all that to say, the card that I am looking into, Connor, for this investment is a 2014 Prism World Cup base card. Nothing special because Messi's cards can get ridiculous. Like his base rookie card is selling, or raw, I think is selling for like 1.4K. So it's like, okay, that's not really an investment that you want to the path to profit there is already, the threshold is pretty high. This card right now, last sale was $86, Connor. That's very obtainable. And this pop count of this FIFA World Cup, we've talked about this before. We talked about this in the lead up to the World Cup in the winter. We talked about how Chase Krim also came on and said, hey, this 2014 World Cup Brazil pop count for these Prism cards is actually a lot lower than it should be. And these are an undersold card where Ronaldo and Messi both have nice cards in this set. Yes, they are not rookie cards, and we understand that. But this card will see a rise, and it's 28.6% down in the last 30 days. So the market cap on this card is over 207,000. Like the high for this card over the last 30 days was $153, and we have seen how this $86 can quickly up $100. And so I am looking at buying probably around 10 of these, Connor. So my path to profit here would be take 10 of these Prism Messi cards and then sporadically sell them during all of those hype markers that I just talked about over the next 6 to 8 months. And there are just so many hype markers for Messi and this MLS franchise that he is going to destroy. I think this card, to me, seems like a can't miss, which makes me feel a little bit worried. But at the same time, it's Lionel Messi. Like, he is the GOAT. He is the GOAT. Like, there is not another GOAT that is comparable to him right now. Like, it was close a couple of years ago with him and Ronaldo. Not now. This is a truly best soccer player in the world ever. This is a card that I think will go up to maybe $200 over the next 6 to 8 months, and I'm willing to get out of it anywhere between 130 to 200. So I think it's a can't miss at $86.
I love it, Lefty. I think that anytime you talk soccer, we get some good. For me, someone that's not as well versed in the soccer realm, I always feel like I get a lot of good, valuable feedback from soccer from you. So I love the Messi play. I actually have a Messi play that's going to be in our next segment for you to make a decision on between Messi and another top soccer player there. It sounds like Janelle Shoe's on the same page with you. She says, love the play, Lefty. I'm going to compete with you on that one. So love to see the play from you. I'm curious to see how it works out. It sounds like you've got a lot of good information pointing in the direction of some strong profits there. So something that we'll do as we continue with this show is we'll be sure to report back on Lefty's plays and see where Lefty's really netting in all these. I think it's a great play there, Lefty. And we will continue to keep you guys posted on Lefty's path to profits. For now, let's go ahead and roll into our next segment, Invest/Fade, where I will be giving Lefty 2 cards to pit against each other. And Lefty's got to pick one here. My goal this week was to make these as difficult as I possibly could for you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So our first one we're going to pick is going to be from two quarterbacks. Two quarterbacks, in my opinion, that have under-excelled this year, underperformed. We're starting things off with Josh Allen, his 2018 optic base. I think the Bills have kind of surprised everyone this year with the lackluster season they've had compared relatively to what we expected out of them. This card's selling for just $200 right now. It was actually at $175 a week ago, which is down 21% over the last 2 weeks. Pop count of 2,000, so it's easily accessible. It's traded daily, super liquid card. I think it has 15 trades over the last 14 days. And this is a card with good upside. In July, this card went for $600 multiple times. We're putting Josh Allen against Lamar Jackson. I'm curious to see your thoughts on Lamar Jackson's card market right now. I feel like he's kind of fallen off in terms of like hobby darling, in terms of popularity, in terms of market exposure, in terms of media exposure too this year. But his 2018 Optic Holo PSA 10, it's down 20% the last 14 days. The last sale was $365. Pop count of 200 and less liquidity. So it's less easily attainable, but has upside of $500. And I did forget to mention, we're taking 2 of those Josh Allen cards. So they were selling for $175 a week ago. 2 of them puts us at $350. That Lamar Jackson is going for $365.
This is the card you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So we got Josh Allen's optic base, 2 of them, versus Lamar Jackson, optic holo PSA 10s.
This is a tough one, and I think I don't know if I've necessarily mentioned it on the show. I can't really remember if I have or not. But what I'm saying is I have had this bias in my head over the last couple of weeks watching Josh Allen, thinking, who are we seeing right now? Because we're not seeing the Josh Allen that was the hobby darling. I think we're seeing a different weird version of Josh Allen right now. There seems to be something going on behind the surface between Josh Allen and Diggs. I'm not I don't love the way that the media has been pushing around this Bills team. Yeah, they had a big win, but it was against the New York Jets with a benched now quarterback playing. I don't know if I believe in this Bills team right now. But what I do believe in, Connor, is Lamar mother effing Jackson. Holy cow, dude. This guy is always good. There are a lot of naysayers out there about Lamar Jackson, he needs to play differently or he's going to hurt himself and da-da-da. He's proven all those people wrong, man. Like I see toughness from him. I see throwing the ball better. You see he's hitting different targets. Sure, he has off weeks, but I think that's because the Ravens themselves don't have giant weapons around him. Okay, he has OBJ now. OBJ has played very well over the last couple of weeks, and that Browns win the Browns win against the Ravens seemed like just a fluke. And we see the Ravens, I think, are a long-term, very deep run playoff team. I am taking Lamar Jackson 2018 holo here because not only is it down, not only is it last sold at $365, that's much cheaper than these Josh Allen cards. I think it also plays into the fact, like the things we talked about a couple weeks ago, you have 1 card instead of 2 that you have to worry about. That is 1 taxes and fees and shipping rather than 2. We also have him having a better season. I think he is probably going to be higher in the MVP rankings than Josh Allen will be. I don't know if he wins it, but I think there's a chance that he could be up there in some of the best quarterbacks in the league. And that easy 500 upside is there. So I'm taking Lamar Jackson, especially because he has been a card darling and he hasn't done anything to necessarily prove that he deserves not to be a card darling. The guy just gets hate. And I think here's an honesty hour, Connor. I think people don't like him because he's not as professional behind the mic. Like when you listen to him, he sounds like a kid from Louisville. And I think people don't like to dream on him because I don't know if they think he's not intelligent or something, but Lamar Jackson is a dog and a half, and he has proven the naysayers wrong. And I am willing to go out and say Lamar Jackson is probably going to have one of the best careers that we have seen in the National Football League. I think he's a better Mike Vick. And so there we go. Those are some bold claims from Lefty McKee here, but I think he's the guy. So definitely Lamar Jackson here.
Okay. I like it. Let's roll to the next one. Good morning, Ron Blankenship. Hey, Ziggy No says, do the Ravens play the Chiefs soon? No, the Chiefs are not on the Ravens regular season schedule throughout the rest of the season. He said, I feel like the NFL favors the Chiefs like they did the Patriots. There's potential that there's an argument to be made there, but let's roll into our next invest or fade that I've got for Lefty. This is going to be two guys that are kind of fallen out of grace in the sports world. We're going to start with Aaron Judge, a guy that you pitched on Monday. Specifically his 2017 Topps Chrome Refractor. Last sale, $153. This card is easily attainable. It's traded daily as well. And we're pitting that against Klay Thompson. His 2012 Hoops Base. So his rookie card is Hoops Base rookie card. Both these in PSA 10. I should have distinguished that. Last sale for Klay Thompson, it's going to be 3 of these compared to 1 Aaron Judge card. So Aaron Judge's 2017 Topps Chrome Refractor goes for $153. Klay Thompson's 2012 Hoops Base, each of them goes for $46. So pretty similar valuation here. Klay's card's down 12% the last 14 days, and Klay is having a terrible year. He's scoring 14 points a game, barely shooting over 40% from the field, and shooting 34% from 3. And I believe last game they played was the first time that he broke into the 20-point mark all season. Yeah, off the rip, this looks like a no-brainer. But let me make a clarification here. The reason that I put these guys together, like I said, they've kind of fallen out of grace lately. Aaron Judge's markers, we don't like to invest in MLB players often that have already made the jump to the bigs. Aaron Judge's markers really are tons of home runs, very far home runs, potentially home run derby. We expect the Yankees to be better. Yes. Klay Thompson, to me, has a very clear sell marker, and it's going to be, he's going to put up 30 and a half. It's going to happen at some point this year. He does it every single season. Is that 30-point singular half performance enough to make this Klay Thompson play worth investing in over the Aaron Judge? What do you think here?
First off, look at these charts, Connor. For those of you that are not watching and listening, look at the projectability of these charts being absolutely almost identical until April of 2022, which is probably around the time that Klay started getting injured, if I had to looking at it. But then Aaron Judge takes off, and then they kind of have a recorrection. So they're fairly close to one another. They are still different. They're about $100 difference, a little bit more than that, but they're still in the same stratosphere. So great job, Connor, for picking two cards that have fallen a very, very similar track in terms of grading. And then one has taken a dive and one has taken a plus. So great job here. I think so. Also, right now, we're talking about putting our money behind it. Currently, the last sale is 153 of Aaron Judge. Last sale is 46. So we would be doing three Klay cards versus an Aaron Judge Topps Chrome Refractor PSA 10. I am going out on a limb and saying that not only is it a bad time to invest in basketball players, but I think it's a bad time to invest in Klay Thompson. I think we're seeing the end-ish of his career. I think he's got few years left. And I think this is the important thing for me to look at in these two cards. The pop count on this Klay card is 142 cards at PSA 10. The pop count on this Aaron Judge card is 1,000 cards, almost 10 times more pop counts on this PSA 10. And we're seeing that the price more regularly reflected. If we look here in the last 90 days on Market Movers, we've seen 3 sales of this Klay Thompson card in the last 90 days, and it's people fighting for a lower price. We've seen in the last 90 days 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 sales of this Aaron Judge card. I think it's a very much more liquid card. I think there's a more stable market, and it's a higher investment it's been trending down. Therefore, there will be times where we see him trend back up. I am picking Aaron Judge to hit 9,050 home runs next year for the New York Yankees, because I think there's two ways the Yankees could go. They could actually push all the chips in and go towards Yamamoto. They could go towards several different free agents. They could go towards Juan Soto. We haven't seen that Yankees come through in a long time. We're actually, I think we're almost 20 years on the last championship that the Yankees won. They haven't been the same historical Yankees that they have been over the last couple of years, over the last 10 years. Let's just say that. They have not wanted to just spend. I don't know what's gone on with Cashman being the GM, but they have just done different stuff. So my fear is that they're going to say, we've got Judge, we've got Garrett Cole, we're going to add marginally, and we're going to try to run this back. And that's not going to work, Connor. The Yankees are not a good lineup right now. Outside of Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole, they are not a good lineup. And so if they don't, they will struggle. But if they also don't, Aaron Judge will be the focus of this team, right. And which means he will be the guy on that team. And I think that does raise his brand awareness. But if they do, the Yankees will be all over the media. There will be so many markers for this team. If they go in and get Juan Soto, if they go on and get Yamamoto, then they have the three-headed goat of Garrett Cole, Yamamoto, and Rodon. This team could get crazy. What if they do go get Shohei? What if they do a Yankees thing? Then this card is going crazy. And so I still think both of those scenarios both play well to Aaron Judge. And so unless he gets hurt, and he's not Giancarlo Stanton, so I'm taking Aaron Judge all day long.
I like it. Yeah, I think to me, and you mentioned Clay being near the end of his career, that's a big factor for me. Our runway's a lot shorter in terms of his career and finding sell markers. There's also less sell markers for Clay. I mentioned the 30-point or the 20-point half 30-point half that's just bound to happen, and it will. I'm telling you right now, you can book it, put the flag in the ground. But outside of that, if that doesn't push the card to the spot that you want it to be, what else are we looking here? The Golden State's not a contender, which I hate to say because I love the Warriors. Steph's near the end of his career. Draymond is all over the place, and Clay's near the end of his career. The upside's just not there for Clay, in my opinion. So I think I'm riding the Aaron Judge play there as well, especially with the discounted rate. And like you're saying, even if they don't get better, he's still the main focus. And if they do get better, they're going to get a lot of media coverage. So
yeah, he's still the captain. Like he is the captain. So
I like it. Let's talk a little bit of soccer now. You were talking about Messi earlier, and I actually had a Messi card pick for you today. We're going to start off with this 2004 UK Traditions Football World Stars PSA 10. So this is his rookie card. It's down 58.6% the last 60 days. So what was trading around $1,400 right now is trading near $600. With my lack of soccer knowledge, is this a desirable card for Messi? Obviously, it's a rookie card, but aesthetically speaking, it's probably not the most attractive to most people. But it does have a big time upside, and it is very close to a 3-year low right now. We're pitting that against Erling Haaland, in his 2019 Panini Foosball Bundesliga stickers, PSA 10. This card's discounted right now too, 33.6% decrease in valuation over the last 60 days. Pop count 573. It has good liquidity. The last sale was $780. So as of right now, it's about $150 more valuable than that Messi card. And then I wanted you to answer a question for me. Why do all these soccer cards have crazy random sales? So this card sold for $10,000 in 2021. What causes the volatility of these soccer? It was similar with Messi. He had a lot of cards that are going for $600-700, and then 3 years ago they sold for $6,000. So curious your feedback there and who you're picking on this one.
Another incredible duo here. Like, I don't know what kind of things you're cooking up behind the scenes, but look at this chart, dude. They're playing nicely, and then all of a sudden you throw in a punch of Haaland is now $150 higher. Like, come on, Connor, you're swinging today, baby. Man. This flu game you got going on is nice. So another incredible matchup here for also comparable cards. This is not the Lionel Messi rookie card that people invest in. This is not the 2019 Haaland that people absolutely love. They are both cards that are very highly traded. I mean, look, you've got pop counts in several hundreds for both of them, which is rare for an as old of a Messi card as this is, for it to have 239 PSA 10s. That's pretty incredible. Let me also talk about what you talked about or what you asked there at the end about the crazy evaluations in late 2021. In late 2021, the card market was waking up to soccer for the first time internationally.
Okay.
It was kind of bizarre, Connor. Like, it's weird for me to put my mind back in that setting. When we went to the National, there was one table with soccer cards, one. And it was just like, it was kind of like there was all about baseball, football, basketball, and soccer was like an angry stepchild that was coming into the scene demanding respect. And so there was crazy evaluations of people saying, we want to go into soccer quickly. Like, we want to do that now because we want it to go bananas in the future. And so you saw crazy money being pushed into soccer cards. Also, that was at the north side of a bubble, and we saw the bubble really pop in late 2021, and card prices came back down as a whole collective. Like, if we look at the entire pop count of all trading cards or all sports cards, there was a bubble that popped after the 2020-2021 seasons where we came back down to some sort of irregularity, which was very healthy for the market, by the way. But also you see these pop, like most of the cards we've talked about today, I have put up all data because we have talked about, we've talked about Aaron Judge 2017, Lamar Jackson 2018, Josh Allen 2018, Klay Thompson 2012, Lionel Messi 2004. So we have talked about cards that have been previous to that 2020 bubble, right? So all of the cards that we've pulled up have seen this massive rise and then a trickle down. I think that is a healthy investment calendar when it looks like that we've seen a recorrection back to a healthy department. So I'm not worried about that. What I am looking at are these two cards is, who do I think is going to be the long-term investment? This, for me, is which GOAT would you rather have? Because Haaland is going to be very good over the next 10, 15 years. Is he going to reach the potential Messi is already at? I don't know. That is to be seen. I am going to take the safe investment in Messi right now because of all the Messi stuff I just talked about 20 minutes ago. I think Messi is a can't-miss investment right now. Haaland is also a can't-miss investment, but this Manchester City team, I don't know how much you know about this, Connor. The financial fair play rules around Manchester City right now, they are in a looming decision of a giant litigation from not only the Premier League, but also UEFA and FIFA. Manchester City is in hot water that they've been trying to avoid over the last 5 years, and Haaland plays for this team. Yes, he's incredible. Yes, he scores lots of goals. There is a lot more negative things that could happen in his career, I think, in the next 2-3 years than could happen in Messi's next 2 to 3 years. I'm taking Messi, even though both of these players are incredibly respectable.
I love it. Like I said, man, when you start talking soccer, there's a lot of good stuff in there. And yet I think the most important part of your response there was Messi's already established who he is and what he's done, where he stands on the GOAT rankings. Haaland potentially could be there, but he's not there. You have it already played out for you for Messi. You know what the upside's there.
Southern Soccer Idiot tunes in at just the right time. Let's go, brother.
I love it.
But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's I just think it's so we already have the markers. We already have the career that's happened. We have the stability. We were hoping that Haaland's career turns into Messi's career. Why not just take Messi's career, right? So yeah, I like your answer there. Good stuff.
I mean, in the next 12 months, Messi has way more markers, I think. Even though like Haaland is going to be going for another Champions League title, another Premier League title. I think he's already done that, so we're not going to see another huge jump here for him. I would be curious in the chat, Southern Soccer Idiot, I would be curious what he would think here. SSI, would you take an investment right now over Messi or Holland if you had to choose one of these cards to invest in? I'm just curious what you would have to say. I respect your opinion a lot. And in my opinion, you're an expert. So I have chosen Messi because just like what you just said, Connor, we could speculate on if Holland is going to be Messi.
Or we could take Messi.
And I'm going to take Messi.
Yep.
I will say that this is not the preferred rookie card for Messi. So
that was intentional.
Yeah. And so it's at 610 right now. Shoot, I might just go get one of those. 610. It's baseball buying season, but a $610 Messi card that's a PSA 10 rookie. Yikes, bro. I paid more than that for my other I paid $800 for a 2004 rookie card that was a PSA 8.
Is that the Mega Cracks?
No, it was the 2004 Messi Mundio. I will get back to you on that.
SSI thinks Messi's the safer play. He's on the same page with us.
Yeah,
we like it, SSI.
2004 Lionel Messi Mundi Cromo La Liga Spain rookie. It's actually him playing in Barcelona B team. It is this card right here. This card is the one that I bought in a PSA 8 for around $800. So, and that was at the National. So I think if you can get this card, the 2004 UK Traditions Football World Stars in a PSA 10, win a pop count 239. Sheesh. Who is this lucky bastard that got it at $340?
I dismissed him as an outlier there. It seems highly unlikely, but even if you're paying $600, if you look at the long-term trend of this card, it's going to sell over $1,000. So I like Messi play there, but we'll wrap up the investor fade right there. We got some good feedback from the comments. So SSI went with Messi as a safer play. Janelle Shue says she'd take Messi. Argentina has better upside than Norway. We got Rusty Imagard. What's up, Rusty? Glad to have you joining us in the deep dive. Let's go ahead and roll into what might be my favorite segment of our deep dives, Lefty, is the 1K budget builder.
Yeah.
For those of you that have not seen us do this yet, essentially, we are going to each of us picks a card or number of cards from a low-end investment, a mid-tier investment, and a high-end investment to make up approximately $1,000. And what we would do if we were starting our portfolio with just $1,000. So, Lefty, what you got for me this week? What are we looking at?
Last week I was like, I did the whole Shohei Ohtani in all three different sections. I had a low, mid, high Shohei Ohtani, and I think it's fun for me to look at, okay, what can I do if I have $1,000? That's kind of an intimidating question for me. It's like, okay, Lefty, you have $1,000 every week. Where are you buying cards? And I'm like, wow, if I had $1,000 every week, I'd be going with some banana cards. It would just be, we'd be having some crazy stuff. I would probably save like 2-3 weeks in a row and buy like some crazy stuff. And so it's just fun for me to think about. It's kind of an out of pocket thing to think about. So this week is Joe week. That's what I'm calling it. Joe week. We have quarterbacks all named Joe. And I'm sure most of you are like, okay, Joe, we got a Joe Burrow in there somewhere. And then you're trying to put two other Joes together. Well, let me just calm your fears, calm us down a little bit. And we're going to start with my low tier investment here, Connor, of Joe Flacco. And I know many of you now are just like, what the heck? Joe Flacco as a low tier investment? Yes, Joe Flacco's PSA 10 base chrome selling last sale for $16.50. This card right here is a card that I am willing to take 5 of. So my $1,000 portfolio, I'm taking 5 Joe Flacco cards, and I am going to take the PSA 10 variety for $20. I mean, $16.50 for a PSA 10 of Joe Flacco, who probably will go down as a Hall of Famer. And he just signed with the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are a playoff team that is going to need a veteran quarterback potentially to guide this program forward. DTR, I think, is a very good quarterback, but I could see them playing Joe Flacco in a playoff environment. I see Joe Flacco throwing the ball deep to Amari Cooper, and I think they can win with Flacco on this team. Can they win the Super Bowl? Absolutely not. I never thought they could win the Super Bowl, even with Deshaun Watson. And so I think this team needs a franchise quarterback to come in and stabilize it a little bit, especially with all the injuries that they've had. And I think Flacco is a guy that could potentially rise. Now, you're wanting data. So my data here is the last time Flacco was a starter and won a game, this card sold for $50. So that is a more than double, almost a triple of what this card could potentially be worth in the future. I am willing to take 5 Joe Flacco very low investments at less than $20 to potentially sell them at $50 a pop when he plays against when he plays for the Browns. Now, let me paint you an even crazier picture, Connor. The Browns and the Ravens potentially play a playoff game together. We've got Joe Flacco, Ravens franchise quarterback for many years, against Lamar Jackson. The teams already had a very close game earlier this season where the Browns squeaked out a win. And then you have Joe Flacco potentially leading this Browns team to beating the Ravens. I think that's such a fun investment. I am willing to buy 5 of these Joe Flacco cards. So that is the low tier investment for me. Anything you want to do?
Let's talk on that. Yeah. Ooh, excuse me. Let's touch base on that real quick, because you mentioned something. You mentioned Joe Flacco as a potential Hall of Famer, and I think there are probably some people going, "What?" Let me back you up here a little bit, Lefty. Let's talk Joe Flacco for a moment. And I like your marker because if the Browns decide to roll with him for an extended period of time towards the end of the regular season or in the postseason, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen this happen. Joe Flacco's come in. He did it for the Ravens a couple years ago. He came in and helped when they had injuries at the QB position, and he played really well. So let's talk about the case for Joe Flacco as a potential Hall of Famer, and then let's think about the fact of how low end of an investment this is for a PSA 10 of a guy on a team that's outperforming what we expected from them and has a rookie QB that is unlikely to take the full percentage of snaps, especially as they get into a playoff run. Like you said, they're going to want experience. So the case for Joe Flacco here. 2012 was one of the best playoffs we'd ever seen from a quarterback. Flacco threw for over 1,100 yards just in that postseason with 11 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. On top of that, Joe Flacco is 20th in passing yards all time. And that puts him ahead of guys like Joe Montana, Johnny Unitas, Kurt Warner, Troy Aikman, and Steve Young. A lot of those guys.
Joe, let's go.
Yeah, he's just one of 22 QBs all time to throw for over 40,000 yards in his career, and he's 34th all time in passing touchdowns. So I don't want to hear any sort of dismissal of Joe Flacco. I think it's a good investment here, especially for the money you're putting in. And just a heads up, guys, those metrics were pulled from CBS News. But yeah, I like the play there. That's such a low end investment. And it's something that I think we should touch on is with flyers. Like we've been talking a lot about mitigating risk with flyers. I think some of the name of flyers mitigates the risk itself because of the low level of investment that you're putting into them, right? Like, yeah, I'm going to be willing to expose myself to more risk and more upside if I'm paying $8 for a card. Now, is that to say you should go fill your portfolio with 50 different $8 cards and hope that 10 of them hit to make profits? No, that's not what I'm saying by any stretch of the imagination. But the investment that Lefty's making here makes a lot of sense to me, and it's one that I'd be happy to tell.
Let me ask you this. 2013, who won the Super Bowl?
It's a fantastic question, Lefty.
Baltimore Ravens. Okay. That was the Ray Lewis, basically the Ray Lewis Super Bowl, where the lights went out in the Superdome, and there was a very famous Super Bowl, Jim Harbaugh versus John Harbaugh. We've got San Francisco 49ers, Colin Kaepernick's team versus the Ravens. Very famous Super Bowl. They win the game. Ravens win the game. Everybody was like, holy crap. Is Ray Lewis going to have a Super Bowl on his way out? He does. And who wins the MVP of that game? Joe Flacco, baby. Let's go. So I am willing. That's 10 years ago, Connor. That is 10 years ago. I am aware of this. But what I also am aware of is this guy throws a deep ball very, very well. And I think that is what the Browns have been missing, is taking the top off of teams. So I think it's fun. I think it's a fun investment. I know it's Joe Flacco and somebody's going to burn me, but give me 5-6 weeks. This card will double, and I will be selling in our mock 1K investment builder.
I like it. Who you got for the mid tier?
My mid tier is the Joe we all know. This is Mr. Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, if you will. This guy is one of my favorite investments in all the hobby, and we want to roll forward with a Joe Burrow. So I am going to pick in my mid tier here. I'm going to pick 2 Joe Burrow Prism Black Silver PSA 10s. These are at $200 right now. They previously sold. They are down 35% in the last 30 days. They regularly sold for almost $450 when healthy. If I'm doubling a Joe Burrow card, come on, ladies and gentlemen. This is too easy. Plus, I know that the Prism Silver is a highly obtainable card, and that his Prism Silver is about 1.2 right now in terms of an investment. I'm pretty sure that will have to be stat checked, but I'm pretty sure it's 1.2 for his Prism Silver. In a PSA 10 Prism Black, I think the Prism Black is one of my favorite cards personally. It's one of my my all-time favorite looks on a card, especially for a football card. I'm going to take this Prism Black. We're getting 2 of them at $200 a piece. We are going to sell them in the next 12 months when Joe Burrow is back healthy. I am willing to put stacks into Joe Burrow over the next 12 months until he comes back from injury. He is an elite quarterback. People love Joe Burrow. Give me a cheap Joe Burrow. I'm getting 2 of these and putting them in my portfolio.
I love it. You're not the only one buying Joey B right now. Paul likes Joey B. A lot of people should like Joey B. There's a lot of plays that he's discounted right now. His valuations are down. The Bengals are done for the season. Jamar Chase has had a bad year. I mean, everything is pointing towards his prints. Either right now is a good time to buy, or even in the near next couple of weeks, it's probably going to go down even more. So I love the pick there, and we know we're going to see upside and growth and valuation as Joey B makes a turnaround for next year. So I love that play as your mid tier. Who's your top end investment for the week?
This one's a little silly, and it's going to sound a little silly. So we've got Joe Flacco, who is a little silly but proven with data. We've got Joe Burrow, who's not silly at all, but also probably will have more buying opportunities in the next 6 months. And then we also are going to come in with Joe Montana. So we have Joe Montana here. I am taking a Joe Montana PSA 8. Yes, I know it is $383 right now. I looked at the data last night, and the last time the 49ers won a playoff game was against the Dallas Cowboys, a massive game that put them in the conference finals of their, and people thought that the 49ers were going to win it all. Brock Purdy had some steam behind him. It was incredible. They ended up losing, unfortunately, to the Eagles that went on to play in the Super Bowl. But I think the 49ers have a better team this year, and I think the 49ers will win playoff games. So this card will pop back up when Joe Montana gets featured and the 49ers do well. Joe Montana, no player markers behind him. He's already made the Hall of Fame. He doesn't have anything, maybe the next sell marker. Now, we've talked about this being an ethical question, but the next sell marker is probably him dying, unfortunately. But this card gets swing traded a lot. When we look at all the data, look at all this data over it's like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. We see peaks and valleys. We see good buying opportunities. We see good selling opportunities. And I think now would be a good buying opportunity as the 49ers go into a playoff run, because we've had some questions about this, about Justin Stewart. We're going to answer your Brock Purdy question in a minute. But I think less granular, focused on Brock Purdy. I think this 49ers team wins playoff games, and we've seen Joe Montana's cards rise when the 49ers win playoff games. and I do believe that they will win playoff games. And so I expect this card to rise as it is down $50 right now over the last 30 days, and was $454 the last time that that they won a playoff game and to make the conference finals. I think this card will go back up to around 450, and when I'm getting it at a mere 383, that's $100 flip for Joe Montana.
I like it. Yeah, I'm never going to argue with data. I think you did good research there. And I'm actually on the Niners trade too. I think that even though they've had some tough sledding over the past few weeks, they've got all the right pieces. I think they have good coaching. I think a lot of Purdy's struggles probably could be credited to the concussion protocol that he ultimately underwent. So I'm right there with you. I like the play, and I like the idea of a win there, spike in Montana's gain. So that's a good little week of Joe's for Lefty McKee, and let's go ahead and hop into what I've got for you this week.
Just an average Joe's week.
Just an average Joe's week. I love it. We're going to kick my list off, of course, with some basketball. So for my low end, I'm taking 2021 Jalen Green Prism Base in PSA 10. For those of you who don't know who Jalen Green is, he's an extremely athletic guard for the Rockets. His last sale for this card was $18.50. So rookie card PSA 10 for $18. And it's liquid. Traded 17 times over the last 2 weeks, and it's down 15% during that time period. Here's why I'm picking this card. First of all, this card has sold above $45 twice in October. So for me, what exactly is changing here, and how easy would it be to spike back up from $18 up into the $40 range? To me, this would be a quick flip type play. We know Jalen Green has the athletic ability. We know he has a talent. He's got the bag. He needs the efficiency to become a household name in the NBA, in my opinion. But I don't need him to become a household play to make money here. We're spending $18 on a PSA 10 for Jalen Green, and his sell marker is highlight plays and strong performances. Within the last couple of weeks, he had back-to-back nights of 20-plus points. He literally has one of the highest verticals in the entire league, and all he tries to do is dunk on people. So he's going to be featured on SportsCenter. I just think this is a card that's undervaluated right now. That's ultimately what this comes down to. I don't think this is a $19 card. I think this is probably a $30 to $40 card. And if he starts performing well and he could do it consistently, then it jumps to a $50 or $60 card. So that's my low-end pick for the week. Jalen Green 2021 Prism Base PSA 10. What do you think about Jalen Green, Lefty?
I like Jalen Green. I think he's on a bad franchise. Like, I think last week we talked about how right player, wrong team, and I think that's the Jalen Green situation, right player, wrong team. You said he had several 20-point games over the last couple of weeks. Was that any of that a month ago? Because when it was a month ago, they had 6 sales around averaging $40. So
it was 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago. So Pelicans, Lakers, Kings, 23, 28, 25, back to back to back. And right before that was Hornets, Warriors, 21, 23.
Yeah, so he had some really good sales around that time period. So I think you're right on where this team or this card could go $40, $50. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he's going to be in the dunk contest. So I would say his marker for me would be, if he does make the dunk contest, he's going to make some stupid stuff happen. So
I thought about that too.
And there was a sale that came in last night at $22. So now the last sale was $22 rather than $18.50. So this is already going up from your $18 evaluation. So you've already seen proven data to prove yourself right. So
bang, we're up $4 already in the last.
Come on, Connor. That's some green.
That's profits. Up next, mid-tier. And this is someone that we're going to discuss more, I think, on the Monday show, because Paul was texting me about this morning. 2020 LaMelo Ball Prism Silver PSA 10. This card sold most recently for just $395, which is a 21% decrease in valuation over the last 14 days. Pop count of 312, and it trades frequently enough to feel comfortable getting it moved for me when the time comes to sell it. LaMelo started off the year super slow, but he's been popping off lately. So last 3 games, 37, 34, 36 points. He averaged 25, 6, and 8. And for me, the sell marker here is going to be his second All-Star appearance, which I think he will most certainly be making. This is a card that you're going to buy right now for less than $400 that we're going to turn around and sell at the All-Star break for profits of close to $200, in my opinion. As LaMelo continues to mature in the NBA and hopefully gets traded to a franchise that's worth something, he's going to be a household name in the league for a long time, and it's his court vision and floor general ability that separates him from a lot of other scoring guards in the league. Thoughts on LaMelo, Lefty? What you got?
I love LaMelo Ball. Always have. When he was the short kid putting up, 80 footers in high school in Chino Hills, like this guy, has always been one of my favorites. He's my favorite Ball brother and I was a big ball ballers fan, or what, BBB. Like I was all in. I was all in on the Ball brand. I thought it was so fun to watch. It was like it's something you just couldn't stop staring at. It was just out of control. But I think LaMelo is a fun investment. I think he is a guy that his market could not have gotten lower last year, which was crazy. I thought there was all these people just not believing in him all of a sudden, and it was
injury induced, I think.
I mean, yeah, it was ankle injuries, but we've seen other players hold value through injuries like that. Sure. And people were just dumping LaMelo cards, and it just didn't make sense to me. And I honestly think it has a lot to do with Lonzo. I think Lonzo's injuries just made LaMelo's injuries look way worse than they are, if that makes sense.
Seems like people would be out on the entire family. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's like Lonzo Ball may never play basketball again. And so when LaMelo has a season-ending injury, they're like, "Oh, they're all injury prone. They're all terrible." They're not all terrible. LaMelo is a very, very good basketball player. His playmaking ability is incredible. Yes, he can score too, but he has some of the best vision I've ever seen on a basketball court. And so I think this is a wonderful investment. I would buy this if it was right in front of me.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, LaMelo, and just the price, the valuation of this is just not. It's too easy. It's too easy. So that's my mid-tier pick.
Pop count's good.
Pop count's good. Everything about this card looks good to me right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's hop into my high end. We're taking Tua Tagovailoa, 2020 Prism Silver, PSA 10. This card, I got a lot to say about this card.
I want to hear it.
And earlier in the season, I felt differently. I felt like I don't believe in the Dolphins. I don't believe in Tua. Tua's injury prone. Blah, blah, blah. I was wrong. I think I was wrong. And let me explain why. So this card's down 20% the last 2 weeks. Last sale of $536, which is awesome because upside of close to $1,000, which we saw several months ago. That's a 100% return if we get to that point. Here's why I like them. Contenders are very weak this year. The Chiefs look like a shell of their former selves. Losing to the Eagles, the offense isn't where it was. I don't know what they're doing on defense. The Eagles' defense is considerably worse than it was a year ago. Who knows what the Bills are doing? Josh Allen can't hold on to the ball. You've talked about fading Bills players on both Monday's show and today's show. I believe in Tua, and I believe in Mike McDaniel, the head coach. I don't know how much you guys keep up with head coaches in the NFL, but Mike McDaniel's awesome.
Are you going for the Mike McDaniel's look right now?
I could be. I'll never be Mike McDaniel. But listen, here's what's powerful about Mike McDaniel.
Shut up, Kendall. Listen.
He connects with his players on a different level. You can listen to these interviews and you listen to these clips on the sidelines, and I think that's super powerful for a head coach and quarterback to have that level of connection. Tyreek Hill has shown that he can play absolutely anywhere. He's had the best 2 years essentially of his career since coming over to Miami. And Miami's remaining strength of schedule is 17th in the league. So what I believe in the Dolphins to do is to make a solid closing to the end of the regular season and have a favorable matchup in the playoffs. And at which point I would be looking to list this card on auction and have the auction end right before the game starts to try and profit on Tua Tagovailoa and his 2020 Prism Silver PSA 10.
I think it's a great call, man.
It's a mouthful.
Hey, Tua Tagovailoa is a mouthful. I was watching the sidebar for half a second. I was watching the Maryland-Michigan game this last week where Tua's little brother is on their team. And so many times the announcer almost said Tua, because I think it's so easy for Tua to be the short of Tagovailoa, which it's not. That's actually his first name. And so like when little Tugga would throw, they would be like Tagovailoa, you know, it's almost like they were like Tua with a great pass right there. But anyway, it was just funny. But that's a sidebar conversation. Tua Tagovailoa is my pick for the 2023 most valuable player in the NFL.
Whoa, another marker.
That is a massive marker. And if you tell me that he's down 19%, if this is a healthy Tua, they're Super Bowl bound. They've got weapons all over the field. A-Chain will come back into this backfield.
Yep.
They're a good defense, good coaching. They've got tons of high-profile players. And Tua is smart between the ears. Yes, we've got to pray that his head injuries don't come back to bite him. You know, like we've got to pray for his safety. But Tua, if healthy, is MVP caliber player. And we've seen the Tua market go bananas before. When Tua came out, everybody wanted Tua cards. Tua cards were selling way better than like Joe Burrow, for instance. And then Tua's market crushed. Like it just became dust. And then you've seen Tua rise from the ashes. So I like the phoenix of Tua Tagovailoa to win the MVP.
Nice. Good analogy there. A little phoenix guy.
Do you like that?
Yeah, I didn't think about MVP being a marker. I guess he technically would be one of the front runners right now. And what an explosive season they've shown offensively. So per usual, I'm keeping track of all of these, and we'll probably do it monthly. So every 4 shows, I'll give you guys updates on where me and Lefty are standing. And ultimately, me and Lefty are going to have to communicate to make sure we know when each other are selling which cards from our 1K builders weekly.
So this is an article from CBS from 19 hours ago. So very recent data. The most valuable player lines. We've got plus 260 for Jalen Hurts, plus 360 for Pat Mahomes, plus 360 for Lamar Jackson. You just spoke about how you don't believe that the Eagles and the Chiefs are who they are or who they have been projected to be. We have talked about Lamar Jackson earlier in the show, and I did give him his props. The next person is a significant jump. We have 260, 360, 360, plus 525 to a Tagovailoa.
It's a good sleeper pick. It really is.
I don't hate it either. I'm saying if he does, I mean, he's going to win this division handedly. Like he's gonna breeze through it. He's got Tyreek Hill to throw the ball to. He's got Waddle on the other side.
Yeah. There's going to be markers for sure. I think it's a card that we should see spike definitely a healthy amount over the course of the regular season, and you don't have to hold for the Super Bowl. While I am saying the Chiefs and the Eagles aren't who we projected them to be, I still think that they're probably more likely to win the Super Bowl. But because they're not, everyone knows that they're not who we project them to be. It's spread the love around in the media to guys like or teams like Miami, and I think that'll help.
Let me point this out as well. Tyreek Hill is also on the top 10 for MVP. I think that extremely bodes well for Tua. Because if you're going to give the MVP to Tua or Tyreek, you're going to give it to Tua first. Right. And if they're both in the top 10, mind you, by the way, they're both ahead of Josh Allen. So
as they should be.
Bills hate right there. Also, CJ Stroud is on this list, and we've been talking about CJ a lot. So anyway,
it's an interesting list. List. Speaking of sports betting,
yes, great transfer into.
Let's get into my winner of the week. This is interesting. This whole segment's interesting for me. First of all, I'd love y'all's feedback on how many of you guys are sports betting, and what you think of the segment. But also, I was wrong last week, and I'm not typically someone that's projecting my picks to everyone, so it's a little different feeling that pressure of losing. But
you're 50-50.
Here's the thing. I'm 1 for 2, which is okay. Ultimately, the goal is to be in the green. I don't care how many times I'm wrong as long as I'm winning long term. Also, everything that I'm picking is research-based. So if I'm wrong, I know that I did my due diligence, and I know that theoretically speaking, it should have hit a lot more times than it didn't. With that being said, I'm going to fade the picks recently. I've been picking straight lines for you guys, and I'm going to give you guys a little insight to what I do on a regular basis when it comes to sports betting. So, and excuse me for all the sniffling. I'm a little bit below the weather, guys. I'm having
All
my
the
flu
sports
game
betting.
right now. Sorry about that, guys. But let's talk about what I'm doing right now. So I'm parlaying, which often, if you're making a parlay, it's not less risky. It's more risky with more upside. So some might equate that to a flyer play. However, I like to do something, and that's taking alternative spreads and alternative lines. So what that means is that let's pretend like LaMelo Ball, who we were just talking about, let's pretend like his projected points, his line is set at 26.5. But I don't want to bet on that because it's just, even though it's even odds, which means if I put $5 down, I get $5 back on top of what I invested. It's just too risky because it's a 50-50 shot. I don't want the 50-50 shot. I want my money. So what I like to do is I'll hedge that and I'll say, okay, I'll take the alternate line. I want LaMelo over 21.5, which means that I won't get even odds. It won't be minus 100. What I would get is probably like minus 350. And while my return's not high enough, if I parlay that with other legs, then I can have the same upside and mitigate my risk for each leg. So let's talk about what I'm doing specifically this week. We're going to bet on football this week rather than basketball. We're going to bet on the Lions game. The Lions play the Packers at home on Thursday. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And Detroit is 8-2. They've won 3 straight, and they're 4-1 at home. Compare that to the Packers, who are 1-4 on the road. So we're going to take the Lions money line at minus 350. This one's not an alternate line. This is a straight up, but it's minus 350. So we are hedging off of even odds. The Lions have the 5th best rushing defense. They're 16th in pass defense, and while that's not an impressive number, they're only giving up 220 yards a game through the air. It feels like you can really feel the Lions culture shifting, and they've got a lot of explosive talent. Because of the explosive talent that we see and the lack of defense from the Packers, we're going to take 2 alternative lines from 2 of their playmakers, starting with Jahmyr Gibbs. And that line is going to be 40-plus rushing yards, which is minus 172 to bet on. The Packers are 28th in rushing yards allowed per game this year. That number comes out to 134.7 rushing yards a game, which just seems astronomical to me. Jahmyr is explosive. He's quick. He's light on his feet, and he can still run people over. In 6 of his last 7 games, he's had over 40 rushing yards. I'm out of breath. The final leg that we're going to talk about is Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Do you need a sniff? Do you need a sniffle?
I might. That's going to be 50-plus receiving yards, and you can get that. I'm sorry, I didn't write the odds for this one. It was roughly minus 250 or so, minus 300 maybe. He has 0 games the entire season with less than 50 yards. Jared Goff's been playing pretty well. 16 passing touchdowns through the air this season, 2,700 yards. And this is the big one for me, 68% completion percentage. Why do I care about this number? Because 50 yards is not a high number for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I want to know that he's catching the ball and being targeted, which he is. So not only is Goff completing a high percent of his passes, Amon-Ra St. Brown is 8th in the entire NFL in targets and 8th in the NFL in yards after catch, meaning that even if he doesn't get targeted as much as we expect, Goff still completes a high percent of passes, and Amon-Ra does things with the ball after catching it. So all 3 of those legs come up to plus 124, meaning that you get more money back than you're investing in. So if you put down $5, you get roughly $11 in total return. Alt props are going to be your best friend, which is why I use FanDuel. No, we're not sponsored by them. Be sick if we were, but I don't know how many other betting platforms have alternative player props. But that's what I got for the week. Lefty, what are you thinking? And what's your sports card correlation?
Well, what I'm thinking is I'm tailing. That's what I'm thinking. And what my sports card correlation is I said this at the very end of the show on Monday. The Lions have not had this record since restaurants in Detroit were segregated. That is incredible. Like, this team has been yearning for some wins. Dan Campbell is the man for the job. I love what the Lions are doing right now. Like, call me a mock Lions fan. Like, I am all in on the Lions. The only thing that I was a little unsure of is Jared Goff, because I've seen him in a Super Bowl put up 3.5 points, and I was just like, what the heck is going on? But I've turned a new leaf, and my card for this week's correlation is the 2016 Prism Silver PSA 10 Jared Goff. You can get this card. It's down 20%. It is a $45 change from last sold. Starting price was around $225 the last 30 days. We're seeing it at around $180 right now. So let me just point out that in today's show, we have seen NFL cards coming into a recorrection. I think it is going to be a good opportunity for us to buy into some of these guys for their late season runs. For instance, Tua, for instance, Jared Goff, for instance, Lamar Jackson, i.e. Joe Flacco. And so Jared Goff fits right into the average Joe day. We have seen Jared Goff be just Jared Goff, and that's all he has to do for this Lions team to win, because there's incredible weapons all over this team. And so love the pick. Love the plus 124 on that line. You know the Lions are going to dominate the Packers this week. You know Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get some good game script late in that game, and so he'll have 40 plus for sure. Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the best wide receivers that no one's heard of in the NFL. What I mean by that is, like, he's not the top names, but he's definitely a top player.
But he is. Yeah.
But he is a top name, but he's not. You know what I'm saying? Like,
totally agree. I see what you're saying.
And
here's a question for you, Lefty. Do you think that I need to be, and I'm curious, Paul, when you watch this back, you let me know. Do I need to be clarifying that this is not financial advice?
Yeah, I think you have to say not gambling advice. But our whole show,
not gambling advice, people.
Our whole show is not investment advice, technically. So, like, I don't know the red tape there. That's definitely not Kendall's. Lefty McKee's strength is red tape. But what I am saying is, Jared Goff's my pick. His silver prisms are down 20% over the last 30 days. Go get you a Jared Goff.
I like it. Good correlation there. That's going to do it for the regular segments. Let's head right on into our audience Q&A. We got some good questions this week.
I love where our audience is at. We've got 20 listeners tonight on a deep dive show, or today in the deep dive show. That's incredible. Thank you guys for all the awesome questions. I'm looking forward to getting to some of these questions that we've starred. I think I wanted to get to them earlier, but here we are. Let's hit them.
Let's hop into it. We didn't talk too much baseball today, so let's start diving in. Starting with Craig's Cards 11. Lefty, what are your thoughts on Drew Gilbert and Ryan Clifford?
Yeah, so I saw this one and I pulled up on a different tab. I pulled up the fan graphs. They are both, I believe they're both still in our baseball rankings. So I'm going to pull that up while I'm talking about. Drew Gilbert is where he's at in our list is he is at a good position to potentially do a lot better this year. As soon as Houston traded him to the New York Mets in the Justin Verlander trade, he popped off in Double-A with a 167 WRC plus and a 325 batting average with the Mets. He ended up having 150 plate appearances for them and had 6 pumps in that Double-A team. The New York Mets have put some good. They retooled their minor leagues very well with a couple of additions this year, and I have Drew Gilbert as the better of the two between Ryan Clifford and him. Drew Gilbert is our number 39 investment right now in our October listing of our baseball rankings. So I do believe in him. If he's on the list, I do believe he's worth buying. So yes, Drew Gilbert is a plus for me. Let's run over to Ryan Clifford. He's also in a high A for the Mets, also came over from Houston. We see him coming into 2023. We see him going over to the Mets, and he struggled with the Mets. So he was not necessarily as good. We saw Drew Gilbert coming in at 39, and then I had Clifford on our list, and I took Cliff. Oh no, he's not. He's still number 40. So they're right after each other. So Drew Gilbert, Ryan Clifford. But I would my November rankings will have Ryan Clifford coming down, full transparency. And so we will see Ryan Clifford come down. I'm going to need him to see AA level next year. He is a bit younger. We have a 20-year-old and a 23-year-old. So we could see him coming out of, a transition. He also plays first base. His raw power is definitely much better than Drew Gilbert, but his hitting skills are not as good. So he's just a different type of player, a more risky investment. I personally would go towards Drew Gilbert more than Ryan Clifford, but I think both of them needed a move, and they both needed that Mets farm system to be able to grow. So they both are number 39 and number 40 in our rankings currently. Drew Gilbert, his stock is up. Ryan Clifford, his stock is down.
Good stuff. Let's keep talking baseball prospects. Brian Steeler 714 wants more feedback. Let's talk Jackson Merrill, Colson Montgomery, and Carson Williams. He says 3 guys that could possibly be up next year and are very affordable. 3 more guys. I know Merrill and Montgomery are on the list. I'm not sure where Carson Williams sits in our baseball rankings, but Lefty, what you got on those 3?
Yeah, so Carson Williams comes in at number 12. So I still love him. Actually, Carson Williams is right ahead of Colson Montgomery, and Jackson Merrill comes in at number 9. So these guys are all extremely good investments and will be coming up next season. We've seen Colson Montgomery and Carson Williams do a lot of stuff where Colson Montgomery needs to come up. That White Sox franchise needs someone. Carson Williams doesn't necessarily need to come up, which is he'll be the deeper of the 3 investments, even though he's actually ranked a little bit higher in our rankings. And Jackson Merrill, like we talked about earlier this week with the Padres, they are definitely struggling this year in terms of some investment. And I think those young players, we talked about Ethan Salas getting promoted quickly. Jackson Merrill is a true top 10 prospect in baseball, and he is worth the investment.
Boom. Good stuff there, Lefty. Brian Steeler 714. Hope that helps you out, sir.
Yeah,
Let's
all
head over
3
to
of those
Janelle.
dudes are worth the cha-ching, in my opinion.
Yeah, if we have them on the list, we believe in them. Janelle Shoes up next. I'm focusing on first sapphires for prospects as autos are a bit too high for me. Finding a lot of Young, Keith, etc. around the $50 mark. What do you expect as a possible high price on call-up for sapphires? So what's the upside for these sapphires, you thinking, Lefty?
Yeah, sapphires are really nice. I like the pop of a sapphire. The pop count is nice. We're seeing people that it's nice middle ground between the affordability of a Bowman Chrome auto or like the lack of affordability for some Bowman Chrome autos, and then a little bit nicer and the pop count a little bit lower of a regular PSA base 10. So what we have recommended is, like, we've seen how Jackson Churios, we've been scooping up his sapphires because there's a lot of them. And there's a lot of availability for that. If you can find Young and Keith's sapphire 10s, do it, primarily because Cole Keith's pop count is very low anyway. He was not a premier player in that Bowman checklist, and so his pop count is low. So if you can find PSA 10s on him, his PSA 10 gem rate is a lot lower than others. And so I would say if you can buy PSA 10 Sapphire Keiths, I would do it all day long because that's going to rise pretty significantly.
Hope that helps there, Janelle. Sticking with baseball, and you guys do a great job of answering these questions, Lefty, when I pitch them, but man, sometimes these names just throw me for the loop. We're heading to one that I'm not familiar with. Shota Amanaga. Is he worth investing in, as he may sign after Yamamoto for $200 million? This is a question from Skeeter Robinson.
Let's jump to Janelle Shoe's next question, and I will pull up the charts for Imananga.
Okay. Janelle Shoe, when do we typically see card hype around Olympic soccer?
I don't know if I've had proven chart data for sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to spell Imananga. So Skeeter, the answer to your question first is I am unsure. I'll have to get back to you on that question. Connor, if you can add that question to my base camp tasks for the Overflow show, I'll spend specific time at answering Skeeter's question there. So Janelle, when we have the soccer hype, I think the Olympics actually are more fun for me to watch because the Olympic rules for soccer. You can only have certain players or so many players over a 21-year-old threshold. So it's really, you're actually seeing like almost a U21 team go to the national team, go to this event. So it's set up for young players to actually have the stage for the first time. You do see I think you can have 3 players over the age of 21. And so you will see players that are premier players make this team. But the good point of the tournament is for the countries to be able to promote young prospects. So the Olympic soccer team the Olympic soccer media doesn't always get the same attention because it's pretty much a U21 tournament with specific players getting a rise. But I think it's more fun for us to watch as prospectors. So I don't know if we will see hype going into Olympic soccer, but I do think we will see hype coming out of Olympic soccer. So there will be some players that come onto the main stage for the first time. So be looking forward to that.
Good stuff there, Lefty. Let's transition over to a little bit of football real quick, American football, that is. Justin Stewart, thoughts on Brock Purdy currently and whether or not to hold until the playoffs or sell now since his prices are beginning to go back up. What do you think on Purdy's current card market?
I think this goes really hand in hand with our comment that we made about Joe Montana earlier. I do believe in Purdy, and I do believe he will have a good playoff, so I'm holding.
Cool. Good stuff. Yeah, so if we're holding now, what do you think is the marker there? Is it the first playoff win? Try and set an auction before the next game starts, or
that's a good point. I think you could wait till a playoff win. I am going to probably let's see. I'm looking at their current record. I could see there being a playoff win being the marker, but I also think that they end up winning the division because their division is weak. I don't see the Seahawks passing them. So I think my first marker to sell could potentially be when they win the NFC West championship, or when they lock in the NFC West divisional champion, and then they're probably I don't think they finish higher than the Lions, so they're not going to end up being the number 1 seed because I don't think the Eagles. I think they're falling from grace a little bit. So yeah, I would say when they win the NFC West would be my first potential sell marker, and then if they get paired against the NFC South, then I think any of the wildcard teams or potentially the NFC South, they will win against them as well. So yeah, that's my loose breakdown, is when they win the NFC West or when they win their first playoff game.
Yeah, Justin, I think something else to consider. Paul talks a lot about not only selling at the right time and the right player, but the right card. So I think it's tough necessarily to give a quick answer on Purdy's entire card market. Also, although I like where Lefty's head is at for sell markers. So I think some of it would come down to which card specifically you're looking at selling that you're currently holding.
Yeah, that's true.
But hopefully a little bit of feedback there helped you there, Justin. Up next, we got Barry Siff. Saw Shaedon Sharpe last night versus the Suns. He loves them, even though Portland's weak. Shaedon Sharpe has highlights and markers in the future. What are our thoughts on Shaedon Sharpe? Lefty, I'm gonna give my feedback.
Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, so I like Shaedon. I think, like Barry's saying, he provides a lot of highlight plays. And he's from Canada, so he does have the market. He gets U.S. and Canadian viewers and interest. However, I think Shaedon Sharpe has some efficiency issues. And I also think, right now he's averaging 17 points a game. He's shooting 39% from the field. He's shooting 31.7% from 3. He is averaging 5 boards and 3 assists a game, and he averages about a steal a game. I think that Shaedon has upside, but here's what concerns me a little bit. Shaedon is one of about 5 guards on that Trailblazers team that's trying to figure out who the identity is right now in terms of the top scorer and head honcho, right? So Scoot Henderson hurt his ankle. He's just recently been reassigned to the G League team for rehab type stuff, which means he'll be back soon. And anytime I've been seeing a lot of stuff in the news lately about NBA politics within rosters. So there was a player, and I can't recall, but he was recently talking about how top pick players will be naturally given way more opportunity than guys who weren't. And it's not that Shaedon wasn't a top pick guy. He was a 7th pick in the 2022 draft. So it's not necessarily that Scoot blows him out of the water, but I think there's so much hype in Portland around Scoot Henderson. And Anthony Simons has proven to be an elite scorer when Damian Lillard was out prior to being traded to the Bucks. I just think there's a lot of love to be shared in the guard/wing category in Portland. So for me, I would want to see Shaedon Sharpe traded to another team where he can shine a little bit more, because I'm with you. I think he's got the talent and the skills to take things to the next level. But he's a good flyer play. I think that the market in Portland is going to be tough to see his cards go crazy, especially with how much they're going to struggle this year and how much that rock needs to be shared amongst the backcourt.
Yeah, I think great analysis, Connor. I think the one thing that is going in his favor is he's playing 36.9 minutes per game. He's getting as much run as he needs to. He is started 13 of the 14 games. I just don't know. He is a shooting guard that's not exactly a scorer. He's more of a slasher, in my opinion. And the scorers are what eventually drive the NBA prices from what I've seen. You don't see the slashers being the guys that are really dominant in the card world. I
don't really see the playmakers either, because we talk about a guy in OKC like why Giddy. Am I going to blank on Giddy? Yeah. So that's a good point on the scores. I'm sorry to cut you off. Keep going.
No, I think that's a good support demographic. He's a great rebounder. He's coming in at 5.4 a game for a shooting guard. That's really good. His turnovers are actually really high. He's got his assist is so he's running more turnovers per assist. That's not a good recipe for playtime, especially as a guard. So his assist to turnover ratio is 0.9, which is not good. Just to put that into perspective, Malcolm Brogdon assist to turnover ratio is 3.3.
Yeah.
So, and his backup Skylar Mays is 4.2, and he's rocking a 0.9. So, I have not looked at his advanced stats in terms of his plus minus, but I would assume it's not good. So all of that to say, Sharpe, I think, even though he comes from a big school, he was a 7th round pick. It was a number 7th pick out of Kentucky. I'm not interested. His field goal percentage is low. He's 135th in the NBA for field goal percentage. And there's just a lot pointing. Forget the name. There's a lot of things that are not good for him. And I'm fading.
I like it. Barry, hope that gives you a little bit of help. He says good insights on Shaedon. Forgot about Anthony and when he and Scoot return. Marker would be a trade. I think so. I think the marker here is a trade.
You're right.
Here.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the things, I'm going to add a little bit more real quick for you. A lot of the things that Lefty's saying are very, very good points. And a lot of them come from, we just see it with younger players, right? It's an immaturity type thing. And I think the franchise that he's in isn't necessarily one that will provoke guards to mature.
Yeah.
To get past those tough stats. So I think the trade would be the marker, and then we could see him start seeing maturity, and those bad stats that Lefty's referring to that are definitely something to consider right now might start improving then. Up next, SSI. Lefty, you started this one. It says Everton with a 10-point deduction. Send the Blues to the basement. What'd you start this one for, Lefty?
I just wanted to start this one to point out that Everton has had a 10-point deduction, and I did talk about the financial fair play rules previously with Manchester City, and that's why. So this was the deduction that financial fair play rules got for Everton. So I wanted to bring this back up to talk further about how Holland and some of the other Manchester City players will be affected with financial play rules eventually. Everton is in the basement. I don't think that we will stay there. I think that we are better than the 3 teams that are there. But in terms of sports card news, the reason why this is relevant is because of Manchester City. And I wanted to pull back on that string when we talked about Holland being the investment. I wanted to pull back on that string of like, Everton got a 10-point deduction for one financial fair play violation. One. And Manchester City has like 140. That's not good.
Up next, Paul Thorne. And I know that Paul Hickey would love answering this question, so I'm curious your feedback on it. Lefty, I'm going to give a short answer, then I'm going to let you elaborate. Could you touch on recommended cards on the rankings pages? Example, if it says a silver prism, are those just for base silver prism cards, or can it be a red prism, green prism, or a draft picks? Short answer, Paul Thorne, no, it can't be. This is short answer. Not saying it can't ever be. We don't want to make blanket statements necessarily. However, if we pick that card, it's because that specific card, the Prism Silver, not the red prism or the green prism, the Prism Silver is a card that we've looked at market movers data for, data/data, ain't that right, Lefty, that we like. So we're recommending this card specifically. And typically Prism Silvers have a lot of good characteristics in terms of desirability, liquidity, upside, potential to make growth. So Lefty, what do you think here?
Yeah, I think Prism Silver is the only one that I would buy in this scenario. Red Prism and Green Prism actually doesn't sell as well, and Draft Picks does not sell as well either. So Paul Thorne, thanks for the question. Stick to the Silver Prism. And one thing that I did not do for a long time is buy the Prism Silver. I was just buying the Prism. You got to type in the silver version of it because the silver version has an extreme bump, especially in NBA cards.
Boom. Hope that helps, Paul. Up next, Skeeter Robinson. Got a little bit of add-on for our Tua conversation earlier. Only issue with the Dolphins, they haven't fared well against the elite team yet. We'll have to beat one of them for Tua to get his credit. It's a good point, John. What are your thoughts here, Lefty?
Yeah, I think he's right, but I think that they will. You know, like if I'm putting the Dolphins up against some of those elite teams, like I think they end the season with like the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chiefs. Like that's a really tough end of the season. They're basically going into the playoffs 3 weeks before the playoffs start. So they're going to have to prove it, which is why I think he is in that 4th or 5th slot in the MVP voting. But if he does, that's number 1.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't even have to wait for a playoff win to sell Tua. If he comes through that 2-1 even. Let's say he loses one of those games. If he comes through 2-1, I still think his market is booming.
And like I said, that strength of schedule, even though it may sound difficult, it's 17th right now in the NFL for remaining strength of schedule. So that's why my sell marker was list and auction prior to the first playoff game that ends right before the game starts. I don't want to have to see Tua fare well against that elite team. I want him to finish the regular season at the top of his conference, be pitted up against likely a lesser capability type team, make my profits before the game starts, get out and reinvest elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Let's round things off with Mark D. Since it is buying season for baseball, what is your advice for selling baseball? Should you stick with buy it nows? My mic is having a mind of its own today. Lefty, what you got in terms of advice for selling baseball?
Tough. Yeah, I just to be clear, I'm not selling baseball right now. I think we could to take marginal wins. No, you know what? Actually, Connor, let me take this back. The cards that I would sell right now are non-autos, and here's why. If you're doing our bulk play submissions right now, in what we've talked about sending like 20 Bowman first chromes off to PSA, an actually unique play right now is sending them off to SGC. SGC right now has a $9 Bowman submission deal going on right now. I was talking to Chase Krim about this yesterday, and I was like, yeah, I just don't know if I really want. I mean, it's cheaper. It's $6 cheaper per card, but at the same time, like, is that going to move any different? It's going to move a lot differently than a PSA, and I don't want to move before I can afford the time to send them to PSA right now, because we're not selling until March. What I would say is, and what the conclusion I came down to is I am going to send Bowman into SGC for my bulk plays right now, because I do want to get out of some bulk plays to prepare some more money in my cash flow, because the autos are the ones that are going to give us a lot of upside for our big plays. The PSA 10 Chrome plays that we're making, the bulk plays, that is to build our bankroll for the big plays. Just so we're clear, it is almost in a way we're nickel and diming profit so that we can have the bankroll to invest in big cards. And so if I want to invest in a big Messi card in the next couple of months, just transparency, I need more bankroll. I don't have millions of cards like Chad does. So I have to make the nickel and dime. So what I am going to do, it is baseball buying season, but for me, baseball selling season is I'm sending a bulk submission to SGC from my PSA 10 base chromes. I'm going to sell those, and what I am going to do on those is sell it, buy it now. So that wraps all that up to saying buy it now is what I would do. Do not put your cards on auction right now.
Love it. Good stuff there, Lefty. I think that's going to do it for us today, man. Per usual, I had a fantastic time with you, Lefty. Do you have any closing thoughts for today's sports card strategy deep dive before we return next Wednesday morning?
I think this is correct. If City gets hit by financial fair play, Haaland will go to Real Madrid, and his stock will rise even further. Absolutely. That's great bow on top of all of this. Yeah, guys, absolutely incredible show today. Thank you for all the chats. Skeeter, SSI, Sean, Justin, Janelle, Barry, you guys are all very, very loved members of what we're doing here at the Sports Card Strategy Show. And thanks for tuning in for yet another deep dive. For those of you that are listening online, we love you. We talk a lot about the live chat, but we know that there are thousands of you that are listening online as well. And if you're hitting Spotify and Apple Music, give us a review. Those are really, really crucial for us to rise up those rankings. And so I know we don't talk about that much, but please drop us a review. And we love you as well. So continue to reach out on nooffseason.com and the Sports Card Strategy Show. nooffseason.com/ask is how you can get premium questions answered, and you can go premium at nooffseason.com for a free 30-day trial. I just went on an absolute tear for nooffseason.com because we love what we're doing here. And I know that's typically Connor's job, but we're all in it, and we're all here to see a big dub here at Sports Card Strategy Show and nooffseason.com, and we love you.
Boom. Mic drop. All right, let's let Paul take it away, and we will see you guys next week for another deep dive with not only Lefty, but also an afternoon one with Chad. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. And
happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Yes, sir. Happy Thanksgiving.
Great job on today's show, Lefty and Connor. Everybody, thanks so much for watching and listening. I'm Paul Hickey with nooffseason.com. Don't forget to get your free 30-day trial today at nooffseason.com to help you build your sports card investment portfolio and take lessons at Sports Card School. Go to sportscardschool.com. Text sports cards to 1-833-992-5727 to get your buy alerts and your sell alerts. Text sports cards to 1-833-992-5727. That's 1-833-992-5727. Text sports cards there to get your buy alerts and sell alerts to crystallize your profits. We would love it if you give us a positive review on Apple or Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Paul Hickey and connect with us on Instagram at Sports Card Strategy. Thanks for being part of the nooffseason.com family. Have a great day.